Hey there, my dear friends. Dana here, otherwise known as Dana Spirit Butterfly, here with spirit messages for November 2023. We are also going to weave into this video some information around the moon cycle. The dance, of course, that we talk about all the time in these videos is the masculine and feminine, the a lineage work that we do, which is connecting us through the earth to the earth and through our bodies. Also dialoguing with Father Sky, the higher kind of interplanetary structure or geometry. And so when we dance the two together, structure, form, and creativity, we have abundant life. And as I say, abundance, one of the major markers of November, typically in the spiritual conversations that are often offered, is that of the manifestation portal of the 11th of the 11th. And often I will run a call to assist you with manifestation practices. This year I'm not going to offer that. I'm going to offer something different, which I'll talk about in a minute. But this dance between the masculine and feminine, it is a requirement of life. And so without the two, we do not exist. So Spirit's also asking me just to share with you that, as you see, I've got beautiful wreath of flowers on my head. It is something I picked up in Glastonbury, not something I made myself, just in case you care. But it is also because here in the Southern Hemisphere, we are about to celebrate Beltane. And I'm going to talk about Beltane in a minute, but first, let me backtrack a little bit. I'm recording this today on the 31st of October, and the 31st of October is typically known quite widely as Halloween. And Halloween has its stereotypical commercialized form, and Halloween also has its lineage. It also has its storylines as to how we come to celebrate Halloween at this time of year. And so the stereotypical version, of course, is that we all dress up and we go house to house and we trick or treat. And of course, if you think that that's a spiritual practice or enough of a spiritual practice, I kind of could lean into a discussion around that. But we are here to promote the awareness of the deeper well, an awareness of things that are beyond the obvious, beyond the stereotypical, beyond the commercialized. We are here to inspire you, hopefully with these videos, to go a little bit more deeper with your interaction with your lineage, with your body, with your expression, with your creativity, and with how you dialogue with the greater oneness in the external and internal landscapes. And what that means is that we want to get you in a conversation with your local environment. We want you to recognize that as you voice yourself moving through your life, you are impacting an ecology. You are in an environment and you are a part of that environment. That environment is not subjecting you to experience. You still have free will and an ability to make decisions, but it's a bit muddy. You know, it's not exactly crystal clear. It's a little bit more complicated than that. And if you're having difficulty right now with your life, I'm sure that that makes sense to you. I'm sure that that's maybe the first message that you need to hear. Spirit's just reminding me, you know, we just came through the eclipse portal, and the eclipse portal really danced with the Taurian energy, which often many associate with home or with being on the land and being connected very much with the earth. And the Taurian energy danced quite strongly with the Scorpio energy, which we were in the solar sun sign of Scorpio. And we're also just about to head into a new moon in Scorpio. And so the Scorpio energy really personalizes things. It really brings things close to home. And when we use the term close to home, we're not talking about your physical external landscape. We're talking about your inner dialogues and maybe the things that aren't meeting you. And so if you're having a hard time with things at the moment, if you're finding that things are getting a bit challenging for you, or they've just been quite challenging for you, we knew, Spirit told me a while ago, that October for many of us would be a challenging month. October would be a month of revelation, but off the back of making necessary changes. And Spirit's reminding me that, you know, I had a dialogue with someone yesterday who I saw out on the street, and she was like, oh, you know, Dana, you're really into this spiritual stuff. How did the eclipses impact you? You know, did you have a hard time? And I said to her, because this is true for me, that I didn't have a hard time because I know how to listen to my deeper landscape. I actually know the conversations that I'm in because I'm listening. I dialogue with them often. And so when eclipses come up, I'm aware that it will stimulate energy and it will bring certain things forwards and make things obvious. And there will be a period where things get complicated and I feel quite chaotic. And as long as I stay present with my body and present with my own landscape, listening to my own dialogue, then I'll navigate my way through that experience feeling elated on the other side. And that's actually what's happened. On the other side, I feel a lot more clarity. I do feel a lot more grounded in my own body. And I do feel ready for what's coming. I don't fully know what's coming. Of course, Spirit gives me some idea. And hopefully with these videos, you're getting some energy awareness of what might be coming for you personally. You know, it's always different, the dance between what you get personally and what the collective field experiences. There's always, you know, a conversation in between where there's something for you personally and something for the collective. And we encourage you, when you start to feel pulled out by collective dialogues, for example, all of the sorry, that's not the right word. The word I'm looking for is the experience of Gaza at the moment and all of the chaos and terror that particular part of this world is experiencing right now. There's a lot of emotional experience and energy connected to that. And some of you may have found this last month has pulled you into that collective dialogue, and you may have felt some things around that. And we want to celebrate your awareness and connection to that, but we also want to acknowledge that it's important for you to be aware of where you start and where these collective dialogues continue. And they do continue from your individual experience, and they will influence your individual experience. But you don't have a lot of impact of the collective field. You do have an impact as a participant in your own life. And so this is why often when we offer these spiritual practices, we bring you back into your own self-experience and ask you to take ownership of how you're feeling about your personal life. And this is because what you dialogue with in your personal life will reflect the collective field. There will be parts of it that you personally resonate and parts that other people resonate with, because we actually all belong to different collective waves. And this is the way the great design is. We're not all woven into the same dialogue. So some people, you might go up to them and say, how about this Gaza thing? And the person will be like, actually doesn't impact me at all. And if you experience resistance around that, that says more about you than it does about them. And so please don't project your judgment at such people who have their experience. Always come back to your own agency, your own aspect of self. And as I land on agency, Spirit is reminding me that it is really important as we start to head towards the year. There is a lot of dark energy on the planet, and I use that term a little bit lightly because people, like with Halloween, seem to see darkness as being a negative thing, and that there's this thing called positive energy. And positive and negative, just like feminine and masculine, they are a thing. They do exist. These things are here, but they weave themselves alongside a unity consciousness. And Spirit's just reminded me, it gets a bit more complicated than that, because we have attachments to particular outcomes and we have particular dialogues in our own system that pull us towards certain family matters or towards certain people in our lives. Or maybe you might be watching something on TV or in social media and you might be drawn to particular people. And again, the dance is between the collective and you, the individual you. You need to take responsibility for your dialogue. And so we want to just say that starting the beginning of this month, we are in a particular energetic portal. We've just exited the eclipse season. That moved a lot of energy for a lot of people. And whether you believe in this stuff or not, you would have been impacted by it, either by other people around you losing their balance and impacting you, or you feeling feelings or having awarenesses that maybe weren't there or aren't there usually. Are you listening? This is the point we're making. You need to be listening to these dialogues, because that is your collective responsibility, is to know what that is and how that navigates in your experience. Of course, if you need some support with that, if you need to understand a little bit more about how you're experiencing your life or what is currently bringing up energy or is calling on your attention and maybe pulling you into some future trajectory that may or may not be comfortable or uncomfortable for you, then please book a session. I offer intuitive sessions online, www.dana spiritbutterfly.com. If you head to that website, you'll find out more information about what it is that I do. But, you know, the energetics that are here at the moment are that we've just, like, we're in Halloween today, which, as I said, is that stereotypical idea and energy that's around. But the deeper wisdom that is available to all of us, that we've inherited because it impacts generations of us, is Samhain. It's called Samhain. Now, Samhain is a pagan tradition. It's why you'll also notice that the Wicca and those who identify as witch tend to celebrate Samhain. Samhain is similar to what you might hear called the Day of the Dead, which is typically celebrated in South America. On the Day of the Dead, Samhain, different geographical locations, similar things around the similar time, is because seasonally, the Northern Hemisphere, which is where a lot of our cultural value systems come from, particularly here in Australia. I mean, let's not lie to you, there's a really strong current here of the Anglo-Celtic, English colonial past that we all experience. That energy would have been celebrated by my ancestors, for example, way back when, way before the change and shift happened, where the religious doctrines started to come in and slightly change things. So if you didn't understand that Halloween originally was Samhain, eventually it became All Hallows Eve, and All Hallows Eve is a celebration by the Catholic Church. It is All Hallows Eve to celebrate all that are hallowed, meaning all of the saints, all of those who have passed away and have now ascended into heaven. This dialogue really is about the dance between the physical plane and the beyond. And, you know, being a medium, often when you first start to dialogue with mediumship and start to speak to the spirits who were here once and now have passed, have left their bodies and have gone over there across the veil, in the beginning you think, you know, we have this physical world and we're in this physical thing, and then they're the ones that leave. But what's closer to the truth, when you dialogue with this energetic world, you start to realize that we're all souls and we all have energy, and that energy, it goes somewhere. It does not completely die and leave the earth and then, you know, it's absent, void, and no longer in existence. What happens is that we shed the physical incarnation and we return back home. And, you know, you might call it something else, but for me it feels like home. And it is, in a fashion, us remembering who we truly are. And so during this period of time, it is said that the veil is thinnest, and that's partially because seasonally in the Northern Hemisphere, you go from a period of light, of summer, of autumn, heading into winter where there's less light. And so what happens with our energy is that in summer, we're much more outward facing, you know, we sweat, so things move from the center out, and we tend to be a little bit more engaging socially, and we tend to be out in the fields and, you know, celebrating and partying. And as the weather starts to get colder and as the available light starts to drop, we get changes in our system. Our bodies start to experience a different hormonal regulation and a different sleep cycle. And so our energetic needs become very different, but also we start to introspect. Also, typically in the past, winter was a time period where a lot of people did pass away because they either didn't have enough food to sustain themselves, or the weather just became so impossible for them to maintain their general wellness. And so during this period of time, typically, there is a correlation with Halloween, Samhain, All Hallows Eve, Day of the Dead, and this being a particular time where often there would be this drop in wellness and this drop into a more need to nurture and care for inside the home. And so it made a perfect time to invoke a connection with spirit, which is why, you know, a few days ago, last week I think it was, I ran a workshop called Connecting with Ancestors. It's a really good time to do so. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more about how to do that, of course, again, you can reach out and find out more about what I do as work. So that's Halloween, Day of the Dead. It does last for a little period of time. The reason why it may impact us in the Southern Hemisphere is partially because of the commercialization of this conversation and this energy, partially because ancestrally this would have been the time that our ancestors did celebrate that. But also because there are so many people on the planet who celebrate this in this moment now. So the energy, the collective field, is ripe for us to do this type of work. Here in the Southern Hemisphere, though, seasonally, it's slightly different. Seasonally, we're starting to get an increase in light. Seasonally, we're starting to head into summer. Seasonally, we're starting to get more abundance. We're starting to notice the grass is growing quicker, definitely here in the northern rivers. The bananas are growing riper quicker. You know, we were just talking about that the other day. And so you notice that things start to expand and grow, and there's more desire to be outward facing and in things. So hence the wreath. It is a time of celebrating, and Beltane specifically is about fertility. So traditionally during Beltane, this is where the men would wake the earth up and would call the energy out, and the stag king would be crowned, and he would then subsequently mate with the May Queen. Now, it was called the May Queen because in British times this would have happened during May. And so it is seen as a fertility rite. It's seen as a rite of passage for many men and women to gather for the purposes of enlivening their own reproductive and sexual experiencing and relational paradigms. So that energy is less prevalent here in the Southern Hemisphere because there's less of us who are aware of it and celebrate it. But thankfully, there are more and more of us getting across this type of energy. And so the rest of the month, this month is going to be lighter than the last one that we just left. And so there is a lot more yin energy, a lot more feminine energy. That often happens when we go through a fire portal, which is what eclipses are. There's often a bit of a drop and a bit of a rejuvenation process that happens in a softer space. And so we do have a new moon in Scorpio, which is a water sign, and that's on the 13th of November here in Australia. Check the time zone calculator that I have a link usually in the YouTube video down the bottom if you'd like to look at where yours particularly lands in your geographical location. Please do, because your geographical location is important to you and your experience, so please do check into that. We have a full moon in Gemini, and that happens on the 27th of the 11th. And Gemini is a very social sign. And so during this period of time, obviously, like in the States, they have Thanksgiving in November, and we're all building the energy now heading into, you know, the seasonal celebration of the end of the year, Christmas or Candlemas or whatever it is that you personally celebrate heading into the end of the year. Yeah, my God, okay, heading into the end of the year already. The lunar cycle does drop off again until the 13th of December. That would be the next month. And it is a new moon in Sagittarius, which is also a fire sign. So we have water, air, fire, but a lot of this energy is very much about, like the Scorpio energy really is about grounding the self and coming back to independence and being able to clearly voice that which is potent for you, and to just hold on to that awareness of that being important. And Spirit's reminding me that, you know, often we have the experience of reading for women who have difficulty expressing themselves and finding their own voice. And sometimes that energetic presence in our lives actually impacts our ability for our body to regulate hormones and to digest food and to really generally feel safe and well in our own experience. And so hopefully we're encouraging you this video to really get clear on what you stand for, what you feel is right for you to voice, and to just keep listening to the heart and the dialogue. As we head into the full moon in Gemini, usually the energy gets a bit enlivened. Usually the energy pulls people a little bit out of their own experiencing and into the collective awareness and wave. And during that period of time, because Gemini is such a indecisive sign, like Geminis typically have this energy where they'll have one perspective today and then tomorrow they might realize they have a different perspective, and sometimes they dance between multiple perspectives and not necessarily aware that they're actually dancing different perspectives. And Spirit's reminding me we're actually quite commonly normal that way, you know, like it's actually normal for us to have a number of different layers of awareness attached to particular themes in our lives. So your idea of what love is, for example, might be quite classic in one regard, but also quite revelationary in the other. And the failure to do the conversation, to listen to the dialogue, and to have kind of figure out that that's what your dance is actually often where people suffer. It's often where people start to mismatch with, you know, love matches. And so how Dance with Rose is always just to come back to self-compassion, to make sure that you keep listening to the dialogue, understanding that it's okay to have contradictory information in your system. It's quite normal actually for people to have a number of different things. Some people are more prone to it than others. Which one are you? You know, that's your work, that's your perspective, and that's what you should be aware of, so that you can voice what is needed in order for you to maximize your relationships long term. So we're going to slowly wrap this video up, slowly. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you if you've made it to the end. I have a workshop coming up also. We mentioned before about the yin energy and the importance of actually embracing the feminine. I mean, my whole business is very much leaning towards that and encouraging women, but also men, and, you know, whatever it is that you identify as. We hope that you are open to listening to the dialogue that is typically, culturally, environmentally, ecologically feminine. And the feminine energy is actually where we need to go for the healing that we all need to happen. The trauma repair happens best in yin environments. And so the workshop that I'm running, it's just a short 1.5 hour workshop online, and it is offering practices for you to find yin for you, whatever that looks like. And we'll be dialoguing a little bit more with those who sign up to that. There'll be a link down in the video. Otherwise, please check out my website. Once again, that's www.danaspiritbutterfly, DANA spiritbutterfly.com. And there's a book now button on there. So if you're feeling like you want a session, please do. I have a special discount this month for my mailing list clients. So if you're not on my mailing list yet, just to let you know, I offer discounts to my mailing list clients so that they are taken care of, because I feel like it's important to take care of your tribe. So if you would like to dive into my work and you're finding that for you is a financial block to that, then please don't let the block be the reason why you don't book a session. I have conversations open and available to all people. So yeah, sign up to my mailing list if that serves you and feels like it works for you. Okay, so blessings, dear ones. Have a beautiful month. I look forward to our next video together. Okay, see you.